Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. I revisited Jackson MacKenzie's book called Psychopath Free. Figured it had some important lessons in it, and we can expand this from just psychopath to toxic people free. Have you become a detective? Do you find yourself becoming somewhat of a detective? Before going into the detective part, though, Mr. MacKenzie introduces something early on in the book called the constant. And he tells you that you know about toxic people. You've got the red flag. So now the question you may ask yourself is, are you really involved with such a creature? And then he reminds us that you really can't ever know for certain whether or not somebody else has a conscience. In fact, he doesn't believe there's any approach that would allow you to spot a, as he calls, psychopath with 100% confidence. He also tells you that fortunately, there's a different way to keep yourself safe. And this involves looking within. And it will work with anybody, anywhere, anytime. And it is a question with answers. Lots of them. And the question is, how are you feeling today? Seriously, he's asking you, because many people will just say, I'm fine. And then say, oh, I had a great weekend. Oh, I watched my favorite show on TV. But the author asks, but what about you? Perhaps you're feeling empty, broken, helpless. Maybe you woke up with that constant aching in your heart, eating away at your soul like some kind of cancer. You may spend the day trying to keep your thoughts away from painful topics, only to find that your mind brings you right back into them. Memories that once brought you so much happiness now make you feel sick. You oscillate between anger and depression because you are unable to decide which one hurts less. Well, he tells us, those are answers. When you feel these types of things after a relationship, does it really matter if the person that you were dating before was a psychopath, a sociopath, narcissist, or just a garden variety jerk? The label itself, he says, does not make your feelings any more or less valid. Your feelings are absolute. They will endure no matter which word you settle upon. And here's what you know from those feelings. Somebody uprooted your life, introduced a new kind of anxiety that you've never felt before. They introduced you to a huge range of horrible emotions that made each day unbearable. During the relationship, you may have felt constantly on the edge and unhinged, worried that any tiny mistake could mark the end of your dream. Maybe you found yourself desperately comparing yourself to others, trying to win back your rightful place in this monster partner's side. So Jackson asks you again, does it matter if they are a psychopath by definition? Then he goes on to tell you that you already have everything you need to know from your own feelings. You felt horrible around them, right? So during the relationship, why wasn't that enough to confirm that they should have no place in your life? Well, because you were groomed and idealized. You were tricked into falling in love. which is the strongest of all human bonds. So your feelings could be more easily manipulated. And he tells us that toxic people condition us to ignore our intuition, and we must learn to trust it again. Instead of judging outwardly, we need to perceive inwardly. He tells us that when we start focusing on our own feelings, this is where your healing will begin. And Jackson tells us, do not listen to those people who say that your feelings should be totally independent of the world around you. If you've got an open heart, that's impossible. As a human being, we have this incredible gift, which is the ability to make another person feel wonderful with a word, a gesture, or a quiet smile. It's what makes the world beautiful. Some people may even call this love. The problem is you have experienced an abuser, somebody who manipulated this gift in order to cause pain. And now you want to know how to avoid people like this, so this will never happen again. You're worried that you've become hypervigilant, untrusting of everyone and everything around you. You feel that you need a little something extra, something beyond your intuition. So this is where Jackson introduces you to the idea of a constant. Your constant will comfort and protect you throughout this book and for the rest of your life. He says to think of someone you love, somebody who's consistently inspiring to you and never disappoints you. It could be your mother, it could be a close friend or your kids, your cat, or a deceased relative. Anybody, basically. You might feel you have no constant. Well, he says, of course you do. You can even dream one up. Imagine a higher power in your mind, one that brings peace to your heart. Colorful and glowing and full of life, embodying all the qualities you admire most. Empathy, compassion, kindness. A gentle spirit who will always keep you safe. And voila! You have a constant. So, he says, now that you have a constant in mind, which is tangible or imagined, he's got some questions for you. Does your constant make you feel unhinged, anxious, jealous? Does your heart rise up into your throat when they speak to you? When you're away from your constant, do you spend hours analyzing their behavior and defending yourself from hypothetical arguments? Of course you don't. Why is this? Why can one dismissive person make you doubt everything going good in your life? What's the difference between your constant and the people who make you feel like garbage? If you can't answer these questions quite yet, you're not alone. And that's the beauty of it all. You do not need to understand why you don't like being around a person. You have a constant. And that's all you need to know for now. Self-respect comes later. Your constant is a private reminder that you are not crazy, even when it feels like you're taking on the entire world. With time, you'll begin to filter out the people who make you feel nasty. You'll realize that you do not need to put up with the negativity when there's a constant who brings out the best in you. Once you become more comfortable with the idea, you'll be ready to ask the most important question of all. Shouldn't I feel the same kind of peace with everyone in my life? And he says, yes. So, let's get started. Okay, so next we bring up the topic of the detective, which I must admit, through my experience, I've become quite a very effective detective. When you're dealing with liars, manipulators, and toxic monsters, we often find ourselves playing detective. Well, he says that this is your intuition telling you that something is deeply wrong with the individual you are investigating. For some reason, their actions just never seem to match up with the words. You find them constantly creating excuses and blaming somebody else, even though the stories never even add up. You become lost in confusing conversations that somehow result in you being labeled jealous, overly sensitive, and paranoid. But when all is said and done, you'll look back on every single instance when they called you crazy, and you'll realize that they were lying to your face. Every excuse was covering up yet another con, infidelity, or even a completely pointless lie. You know, the ones these fools tell just for fun because they're retarded. Psychopaths are skilled at covert abuse, leading you on a scavenger hunt that makes you doubt everything about your once easygoing nature. Well, then he also discusses how he introduces the detective rule, which we just discussed, and he's telling you the idea is simple. If you find yourself playing detective with somebody, then he tells you that you should remove them from your life immediately. Remember, you're constant. Do you play detective with them? Do you cyber stalk their Facebook page and question everything they say? And do? No! Of course you don't. So, you know the inclination to do that with your partner is not about you. Something is compelling you to feel wary, and suspicious. And even if this sense of distrust feels obscure and unreasonable, trust your gut. If you're constantly worrying or doubting your thoughts, it's time to stop second-guessing yourself and start taking action. And Jackson tells us that miraculously, every single time you remove that toxic person from your life, you will feel that the anxiety subsides. Only you can truly know if someone's harming you. You can decide whether or not you like the way you feel around someone. No one can ever tell you that your feelings are wrong. Remember the question, how are you feeling today? That answer is all that matters.
Hi. You probably don't remember me, but I remember you. And I'm pretty sure that by the end of this conversation, you're gonna remember me too. I was the one that went out with you your first semester at college. In case you forgot. And I was the one who used to give you my ATM card all the time. And I told you my PIN, which was 666. And I used to ask you to get cash for me on a regular basis because my nails were usually still wet. Well, everything would have been fine had you gone along with my plan. But, in case you forgot, you ditched me. You dumped me after just a few weeks after I told you that I loved you. Well, honey, I'm not stupid. So I just thought I would let you know that I've gone to an attorney. And I'm going to sue you. That's right, for fraud. I told the attorney that somebody stole money out of my ATM account. And I listed every single instance from the nights we were out together and my nails hadn't dried, and I said, oh, go get 50 tonight. Oh, get 20 tonight. Oh, get 100 tonight. And I disputed every single one of those because I didn't make them. You did. So, honey, you're gonna be arrested soon. And it serves you right, because nobody discards me. Nobody turns me down. Now maybe you'll learn. Oh.
Come on. I know you love me. Tell me you love me.
Remember, I'll always love you.